It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
And welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Breakfast as we cover the latest property news every morning on iHeartRadio, Spotify and Apple, and of course wherever you get your podcast from. Yes, yay, the weekend. It has arrived. If you were hanging out for it after starting back at work this week. And yes, that is the hardest week of the year. That is the good news. It is done. It is dusted. So put your feet up across the weekend. It is a Saturday morning, January the 13th today, almost 2 weeks into a brand new year. So let me ask you this. How is any of your New Year's resolutions going? Or have they already hit the fail mode? Well, I don't do those, but I have been thinking about eating less red meat this year and dairy products. Now, a few nights ago, I started watching something on Netflix, which I can recommend. It is called You Are What You Eat, and it's so true. I'm only 2 episodes in, but this is an excellent doco just to help make us better understand all of the crap that we shovel down our throats. That's what it is. There is an awful lot of bad food that we are swallowing, which made me really want to change my eating style even more. And I'm somebody who already sort of watches what he eats, and I thought I was already quite a clean eater. But no, this doco has illuminated a number of things. So check it out if you want to get a little bit more healthy this year. It is called You Are What You Eat. Now, we are back talking real estate once again this morning, and to the time tunnel we go with our summer series. And coming up this morning, we go back to, all the way back to July of last year when we spoke to Tim McKibbin, the Chief Executive of the Real Estate Institute of New South Wales. He talked about becoming a real estate agent, some of the things to think about if that is a chosen career that you are headed down this year. Is it a good time to become a real estate agent? So Tim will highlight some of those points. And also Anita Fitze from Hobart is here talking about Hobart with a couple of surprise suburbs with pricing. And we also catch up with Kevin Dearlove from Beecroft, Epping and Castle Hill. Do you live in one of those suburbs? And what are those suburbs offering buyers? Well, we asked him that question back in July of last year, and that is all on the way next.
From investment strategies to market analysis, know your property with us on the Real Estate Podcast. We look forward to 2024 with more real estate stories and more property news. You're listening to the summer series on the Real Estate Podcast.
What a real estate agent does in the sales area is assist people who are in transition. And when you're dealing with people's major asset, the vast majority of us at least, it can be very, very stressful. And when you bring somebody to that transaction that has experience and can assist people, then that can be very, very rewarding, actually moving people through a large and stressful transaction. Similarly, in property management, people rely on that income. I'm thinking of, in particular, people who self-retirees, so they are very, very dependent for their living expenses on the rental income. So they place a lot of trust in the property manager to look after their asset and to ensure that the asset returns the maximum that it can to them. So again, I think if we wrap that up, it's all about having the opportunity to help other people. And I think for the vast majority of us, that opportunity to help other people is very rewarding.
Do you think that there are any specific qualities or skills that you believe are very advantageous for somebody considering a career in real estate? And I guess it sort of comes back to that whole thing about there are so many different people from all walks of life, but what are those specific qualities and skill advantages that will help your real estate career?
At a base level, when somebody's coming in, they have to learn the legislation, they have to learn their obligations, and also, I suppose, a degree of skills that they need. So those two things come together. I think people used to call it the chalk and talk, which was the education side of it. I'm not quite sure the last time I saw any chalk, and then the skills side of it. But there's also, within an organisation, you have to look at the existing culture of the organisation, the overall personality of it. And so when you get somebody into your organisation, that you have to mentor them through it. Now, if I was talking to somebody looking for a career in real estate, then I would say to them, you need to pursue two things: a quality education going in. There's a lot of education providers out there, so you should be looking for, if you want to get to the top, you've got to take the stairs, not the elevator. If that be true, and I believe it to be, then by looking for the quickest and cheapest way through your education, you're doing yourself a disservice. The second side of it is you need to be looking for somebody that will mentor you. That is critical to a successful career in real estate. Now, unfortunately, the numbers speak for themselves. 80%, that's 80% of people that come into this industry leave in the first 12 months, 80%. And I think the reason for that is that they are underprepared, both at an education level and at being supported within their agency to do that, which is disappointing. So if you're coming in, they're the two things that I would be looking at, is understanding how I can best prepare myself by investing in myself, quality education, and then ensuring that the agency that I go to work for will invest in me.
Know your property with us on the Real Estate Podcast.
Since COVID, people don't mind being a bit further out from main cities. Scamander is a gorgeous coastal place. It's no longer just a holiday area. It's definitely a growing area for retirees as well as young families.
And what about Mayfield with this price of $370K? Just put that into the geographical spot on the Tasmanian map for our first home buyers that might think, gee, let's go to Tasmania. That sounds like pretty terrific buying.
I can't really talk too much to Mayfield because I'm not, super familiar with the area, but it's definitely becoming more, there is newer homes there as well. More development in the area has allowed those prices to go up and a lot more people moving into the space.
Well, let's talk about a couple of areas that you might know a little better, and that is Bridgewater. At the moment, that's got a median house price of $480. Is it called Gage Brook? You can buy in there for $385,000?
Yes, so Bridgewater and Gagebrook are neighbouring suburbs, And yeah, definitely, they were a more of a low socio-economic sort of area before, but now there's definitely new estates that have gone into that space. So it's making, again, a more affordable family space.
So how are you going personally there in Hobart, particularly over the last 2 to 3 months? What's been going on in terms of the supply? Is it still pretty tight?
The supply is tight because people are holding off, not knowing really what to do because, if they want to sell their property, are they going to be able to get into another property? Because, obviously the banks are tightening a little bit as well. We are still having, really great results. Sometimes they are taking a little bit longer to get the approvals from the banks and things like that. But most people are coming in pre-approved, ready to go. And properties are, even though they have, skyrocketed in Tasmania, doubled and done all of that, they have sort of, flatlined a bit now. So people are feeling comfortable and having a little bit more time to source out their perfect property.
And what do you know about the space of people coming in from interstate? How many of them are you sort of hearing about, maybe through your other colleagues, whereby somebody said, yep, there is some real value here in Hobart or outside of Hobart to buy into the region, they can work from home, all of that?
Yeah, we've definitely, the market for investors has slowed, I would say, like in those sort of areas such as Rokeby, Gagebrook, Bridgewater. Property was getting snapped up by interstate investors. That sort of market has definitely sort of plateaued a bit, but we're still getting great interest from interstate buyers looking for their change. And it's really interesting in Primrose Sands. We get a lot of interstate inquiries, especially being a coastal town only 40 minutes from Hobart. And they're sort of preparing for the next 7 to 10 years. So they're getting in now, renting that property out for the next 5 to 10 years and planning their retirement change.
You're listening to the Summer Series on the Real Estate Podcast.
Stock levels are so low, and that is actually a problem if you want to go deeper into that point. But stock levels are so low that competition, particularly for houses, is very, very high. And we've seen that with some recent auction results and the amount of registered bidders that are bidding on these properties.
Now, just in terms of last weekend's auction, I see that Domain, they recorded a prelim auction clearance rate. It felt a little bit low considering some of the other auctions on the previous weeks. They were reporting 66.4%. Has that gone up since Monday?
I was a bit surprised by that as well. I thought it would be well into the 70s based on what we saw. I think there's markets within markets. I think if you delve deeper into those stats, you'll see that probably the housing auction clearance rates is higher, whereas the apartments might be slightly lower. I thought it might be in the 70s, and we're certainly seeing, again, strength on the ground, particularly in the northwest or northern districts, as we would call ourselves here.
In terms of these interest rate rises, what is happening there in your market? And obviously we're not far away, as I mentioned at the top, from another RBA decision that is coming up.
Look, I think that people have certainly got it front of mind. The cost of living is certainly an issue, even in the areas that we are in. It's certainly on people's minds. I think we've also seen that in borrowing capacity. Borrowing capacity has been brought down. So people who have got liquid cash are certainly enjoying this market. People who are borrowing significant amounts are probably peeling back a little bit or just being a little bit more cautious. But in our areas, because we're in that housing between about 2 and 4 million, families are upsizing and they might have a couple of assets already and they're pooling that money to then upsize and buy a superior home. That's often the trend we see here. The interest rate rises certainly have had an impact, but that said, the stock levels are so low that that's almost been negated by low stock levels.
So a lot of people, they're just sitting, vendors are sitting. What are you expecting to happen come springtime? Do you think the floodgates are going to open somewhat?
I actually don't. I think that people are generally trying to hold on to their homes. We're seeing that locally. Now, they might sell investment properties. They might sell units or properties that they might have bought through COVID or previously as investment properties. We are seeing that trend, but they're putting money against their mortgages and trying to hold on to their houses. So that's great. I support that. But what that essentially means is the houses that come on, because there is a shortage, the prices are going up, which is totally, I suppose, counterintuitive to what you'd usually expect. I understand from basically the mortgage broking community that there's going to be a raft of loans that come off fixed rates onto variable. Look, I'm going to watch that with interest, but I think that people are really doing everything in their powers to hold on to their houses.
Remember to follow us on any of the podcast platforms so you never miss a real estate podcast. You can follow us on Apple, Spotify and Amazon. Know your property with us. You're listening to the Summer Series on the Real Estate Podcast.
How do you think it's likely to play for you for next month and also with the run up to Christmas?
Our strongest period is off the back of the spring selling season as people sell the big houses they want to sell to then find the apartment. They kind of do that first and then come to us. So there's no quiet time for us over Christmas. There's been a lot of attention around the Barangaroo precinct in Sydney, which is probably the benchmark in terms of what luxury lifestyle high-rise apartments apartment lifestyle is on offer in Australia, really.
What's been happening with the fishing? Because we know we've got fishermen and real estate enthusiasts rolled into the one.
So Hervey Bay is renowned as one of the only places in the world you can go and specifically sight fish to juvenile black marlin in a couple of metres of water up the top of Gari, Fraser Island, between 10 and 30 kilos. There's nowhere else in the world you can do that.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.